Right now, we're joined now by Brian Billick, the former coach of the Ravens, NFL Network Analyst, and coach is with us many times, and he's back here on Tiki and Tierney. Brian, how you been, buddy? What's happening?
Doing great. Just getting cranked up for this good game.
No doubt. Going to be awesome. We started the show here, Coach, about the press conference with Cam. And, it's amazing to me. The one thing that I think gets lost is, first of all, he was asked multiple times to expound on things, which is why I think it took a turn down the race avenue. I don't think he stepped to that podium with an agenda, but it boggles my mind and it frustrates me, Brian, that in the year 2016, when guys like Warren Moon and Dante
Williams.
Culpepper and
Williams.
Doug Williams, of course. I mean, why is this still the topic, Brian?
Well, it is because it is. I don't know from a practical standpoint it is. You have as recent history as Russell Wilson. It has long been the question of an African-American quarterback as a quarterback in the NFL and the success they can have. I think within the league, I think on the teams, I think we have moved beyond that. I think we just look for good players. I certainly understand Cam Newton's perspective. You got to remember, first and foremost, this guy since the day he was born has been the best athlete on any court, diamond, field he's stepped on. So that's the perspective he has. And you have to appreciate that he has that perspective. I don't know how valid that is. I would like to see, and it's just the way he comes across. He's so confident, and he has a right to be so. Sometimes it comes across as less than humble. Comes across as less than more about him. And I don't know that that's really the case. It's just his demeanor.
And some people would position that kind of leader who is so cocky and so showboaty can't be a good quarterback in the National Football League. But you can't. It's hard to find that example from the annals of the sport. But that's okay, right? Especially if his teammates buy into it. And it feels like, and I don't know the inner workings of the Carolina Panthers, but it feels like they buy into it.
Oh, absolutely. And Tiki, you know better than anybody about in terms of how the team – it's all about how the team reacts to the personality of the quarterback. We look at Eli.
Yeah.
And supposedly, the humble, the slump dog, he's not a good, and you've lived it. You realize, no, that's the personality. The players accept it. That is what it is. I think it's the same with Cam Newton. Can that wear a team out at times? I think that's possible. I think Ray Lewis is brilliant a leader as I have ever been around, and as natural leader as I've ever been around. I think sometimes, Ray's approach and his passion for the game sometimes wore thin on some players, but that's true of any personality. So, there's a lot of different ways to lead, and right now his team's got a pretty good run going, so who am I or anybody else to argue that this doesn't work for them?
Yeah, I'm talking to Brian Billick, former Ravens head coach, analyst, NFL Network, and joins us quite a bit here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Coach, I wanted to switch gears. I want to run this by you here. Maybe the younger fans might not recall this in real time, but as you well know, and certainly me and Tiki remember this, back in '85, Walter Payton didn't get the touchdown, and I know that really bothered him. Ditka gave it to the fridge, and I don't know that Ditka has expressed a lot of remorse over that. Matter of fact, he doesn't seem to really care, but I think a lot of people know that bothered Walter Payton. My question to you as a former coach, let's just say, not to skew this negatively, I hope he plays well. But what if Peyton Manning is terrible? Your objective is still to win the game. Would you be, if you had to be, would you be okay being the coach who goes down in the annals of possibly pulling Peyton Manning from the Super Bowl if it was the best thing for your team?
Wow. Well, the answer to that has to be yes, because it's all about winning the game. I don't want to be that guy. You can do it for all the right reasons. And if all the scenarios that you just laid out, it's Peyton Manning, future Hall of Famer, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the history of this game, has been a class act. For him to go out that way and you to pull him in his last game, that would be a tough one. And unfortunately, years down the way, just like the Walter Payton example, no one's going to remember that it was the good tactical team thing to do because you had to make a change. All they're going to remember is that you pulled this Hall of Fame quarterback in his last game.
And the only way you get forgiven is if you actually win the game. If that helps you win the game.
Bingo.
I think, Coach,
Tough call.
You can give us a perspective on this. Now, you never had this situation, but if you were Ron Rivera and you're trying to deal with the magnitude that Cam Newton is on this stage, how do you do it? And then second part of that question, not to give you two questions, if you're Gary Kubiak and you're having to deal with this exact question that BT asked you with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, how do you do it on this stage? This is probably his last game, right? This is a tough situation for both of these coaches.
Yeah, the hard part on the latter would be how far does the game have to be out of reach? How poorly does Peyton Manning have to play before you consider that? Well, the chances are the game is going to be pretty much out of reach by the time you get to that point. So will it really make a difference? Because you said it exactly right. The only way you don't go down as the biggest ass in the history of football is if you win the game.
Yeah.
And so, is it 1, 2, 3 interceptions? And particularly the way Carolina's been playing, it might not go well early. And so, yeah, this is a tough one. I'm sure Gary Kubiak will say, we don't think in those terms. We know he's going to play well.
But is he
that's
actually
just not my mindset right now. But you're right. That is a storyline that's very, very real. With regards to Cam, Ron Rivera has a good mentoring relationship with Cam. Cam has a lot of people he listens to. I think he's done better as of late listening to guys like Ron Rivera, but at the end, Cam's going to follow his own counsel. Again, he's a unique, dynamic personality. I hope, and this is a big stage, and we saw it 2 weeks ago when the Seattle game got a little tight. We saw some histrionics from Cam on the sideline that would show you, like every quarterback, there's a chance of maybe the pressure getting to you a little bit when Seattle was making some runs and he came off to the sideline and was burned up with his coaches. So that's a possibility, and this is a big, big stage. You hope it doesn't go that way. He's a tremendous athlete, dynamic player, unbelievably charismatic figure. I hope he doesn't let the circumstance take it beyond what it needs to be with regards to him personally.
Brian, completely subjective exercise here. Give us no order. Give us the top 5 players combining both rosters that will be in this Super Bowl.
That will impact the game or just the best players?
Just going in, like right now, their current state, their impact in the NFL, the 5 best players combining both rosters.
Well, I don't know how you don't start with Carolina, Cam Newton, and Luke Kuechly. I think Luke Kuechly has developed into one of the most dynamic inside linebackers, one of the most dynamic players in the National Football League. So from a Carolina standpoint, you got to begin with those 2 guys right off the bat. And then giving his and he's going to have to be at this week as well. Peyton Manning has to be there in terms of, I love the old Toby Keith song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. He's going to need to be as good once as he ever was, and you have to give him credit for that, and that he has the ability to step into that. I think obviously Von Miller and the impact that he has had, and I think Aqib Talib on the back end again, and they're going to have to step up and be those things if indeed Denver's going to have a chance to win.
Okay, good names, good list there. Brian Billick with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio.
So, Brian, I'm looking at the some of these SeatGeek stats, and
you got tickets for us, Brian?
I know, right? It did 5.
Yeah, I do. That's going to cost you a bottle of Macallan's, though.
I mean, nice.
It's going to be 25 now. It's not going to be 12 or 18.
I can give you a couple bottles of 12 right now, but I don't know about 25. 26% of the inquiries from SeatGeek are coming from California, 11% from North Carolina, 8% from Colorado, 8% from New York, and 7% from Texas. How do these people get seats to this game through SeatGeek?
Well, if you're looking for the secondary seat market, and if you don't go to SeatGeek.com, you're making a mistake. Tiki, as you know, they bring together all the top sites. You're going to see exactly where the seats are. You're going to see what the value is. Over the next week, as you all know, this is going to go up and down like stock market now.
Yep.
And you got to pick your spots. You're going to have all the information you need. And the best thing about SeatGeek.com is every seat is guaranteed. You got to do that going into a game like this.
Coach Billick, I know we'll bump into you out there in San Francisco. When are you heading out, by the way?
I'm going to head out Monday, start my shows Monday night for the NFL Network, be there all week, and I'm sure we'll connect on Radio Row.
You got it, buddy. Thanks, Coach.